when a person gets a full session, what they're doing is they're, like when Scott does a full session, or when I did a session on you, we were calling this head demon up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what I was just explaining to Lynn was, when we do a one-issue deliverance, what we're doing is there's, you know how there's hierarchy, you know, with the demons. We've got a head demon, and then we've got a chief demon. Let's say there's a chief demon of fear, and there's quite a few wounds. This represents a bunch of wounds, okay? So let's say this one is called fear. I'm just giving you an example, right? Oh, this is terrible writing. Anyway, you got the picture. Okay, so this guy is over the fear wounds, let's say. And let's say this other chief demon is over, let's say there's a spirit of heart attack on the person. Let's just say, not to say they've had a heart attack, but chief demon, his name is heart attack. So they've got various names. They have emotion names, which is fear, or they'll have an infirmity name. Okay, so when we do a one-issue deliverance, what we're doing is we're only gonna just take one of these, okay, and we get the chief demon up. We don't deal with the head demon. Okay, we're going to deal with just the chief demon, and we're saying, how old was Mary when the wound was created, when the heart attack slipped in? Okay, so we're telling chief demon to come up, and we just want we want him to fess up to one wound first. Okay, so let's say he says. And now we're not looking for that person to go through their medical history. Let's see, when did I start having, you know, high blood pressure or whatever? You know, you don't want to really do that. You're asking chief demon, how old was she? It's usually something very young. And they just get a little foothold, okay? So let's say it's 3 years old. Okay, so the question is, my drawing, because I'm writing on the screen, it's up here, so I can't really lean up. Anyway, the point is, with a one-issue deliverance, let's say a person really wants to get rid of heart attack. You know, they're afraid of heart attack. Their parents died of heart attacks, or whatever, you know, their big sister did. So they want to make sure that they don't have it. So we say, head demon, you know, we declare your name is heart attack, okay? How old were you when the wounded part was created, when the spirit of heart attack slipped in? He's going to give an age. There it is, 3 years old. Let's say he says 3 years old. And then you say, and what emotion does that 3-year-old hold? So let's say it's feeling abandoned, okay? And then your next question to chief demon would be, are there multiple wounds with heart attack sitting on top of them? So he's either going to say yes or no. Yeah, yes. Let's say it's multiple wounds. Is it a handful or just many? Is it many or a handful? Because to me, a handful is 5, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of want to know. And let's say he says 4. So you know there's 3 more, right? So you already know about the 3-year-old, and you want to know about this others. So what we do is, you know how we're doing worst moment healing? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what we're going to do is and then we tell them, when these 4 wounds are healed, or we ask them, when these 4 wounds are healed by Jesus today, can I make you go? Can I make you go to the pit? And they'll either say yes or no. You know, it's like, if no, why not? So you want to see if there's a generational component. Most of the time they say, yeah, I'm going to go. They will. They'll say, I'm going to go. So all we have to do is go to this 3-year-old, do a worst moment healing, go to this. Oh, we forgot to say, you want to know the ages of those other 3. Okay, so it's chief demon. Are there multiple wounds? Yes. Is it a handful, or is it many? Many can be 100 or 200. Okay, but let's say it's just a few. Oh, it's 4. He says 4. Yep. Is that your answer in the court of heaven? Yes. And then he goes, I go, okay, we already know about the 3-year-old. What are the ages of the other ones? And give me the emotion that's sitting on each one of those with spirits of heart attack. So he's going to go, oh, okay, it's a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 50-year-old, let's say. Okay, what is the emotion on the 5-year-old? Oh, it's, rejection. And what's the emotion on this 10-year-old? See, because you know it has to be a legal right. The only way he can get a legal right is to create a wound. Let that person have a wound, and then he gets to sit on top of that wound. And he just sits there, that person, the whole life until Jesus comes and speaks truth. Okay? So then what you want to do is you go back and you heal each one of these wounds one at a time. And at the end of all those, you say, Chief Demon, do you have any other legal right to any more wounds in this person? And he's like, nope, that's it. Okay. And then boom, you can kick him out. Okay. So what we're doing, you have to get good at, you have to get good. So this one may be another issue in a person. So each one of these are issues in the person's life. Okay. They can be either infirmities, they can be emotions. So what's another common one would be rage, let's say. Okay. So Chief Demon, if the person's issue is rage, well, we're going to call that demon rage. And then Chief Demon come up, rage, we call you to attention right now. How old was Lynn when the wound was created? It has to be a wound, otherwise he can't have legal right. How old was Lynn when the wound was created, when rage slipped into her? He knows that language. That's we don't really talk like that, but the demons understand there has to be a wound, and they're very proud of those wounds that they believe they created them. So we go, and you might say, oh, well, 10 years old. Okay, so there's one wound. What is the emotion? What emotion does that 10-year-old hold for Lynn? And then he's going to say, he might say rage, which is his name. Okay, or he could say anger, or he could say frustration, whatever it is. Are there multiple wounds with the spirits of rage on top of them? That's the next question. He's going to say yes or no. And rarely do they say, no, there's only one. There's usually more than one. Okay. So then we go, oh, is it multiple, or is it a handful? Or sorry, is it many? They love that word many. Many means a bunch of dissociative parts. They love it. Okay. So there's a kind of a noise. I don't know. Anyway, we'll just move on. So
that might be my ducks.
Okay, that's okay. Okay. Okay, so let's say he says multiple. Okay. All right. So then you're not going to ask for the ages like this one. This one over here, right there. It's too many. And you say multiple can be 50, can be 1,000. Okay. So what you want to do at that point, you want to go list out the emotions that caused wounds with the spirit of rage. Don't worry, I'll give you the script and everything. So you want to know all the list of the emotions with spirit. So think of it as here's the wound, the rage is sitting on top of it. That's the 10-year-old, let's say. Well, there's a bunch of spirits of rage, okay, on many, many wounds. I'm just giving you an example, okay? So what you do is when all of these, and then so you want to go and he's going to give you the emotions. So do you see my screen here? Mm-hmm. So these are kind of categories. I don't know, you've probably seen this, right? They kind of come together in groupings. So shame usually associated with embarrassment, guilt, self-hatred, self-condemnation, humiliation, worthless, unworthy. Okay. There's another group, unloved, unwanted, undeserving, not good enough. They're sort of kind of like the same. And then you've got fear, panic, terror, anxiety, nervousness, stress, numb. This is by no means a finite amount of emotions, but usually you'll have shock and invisible. People just don't even feel like they're visible. And then another category, rejection, abandonment, betrayal. And then you've got anger with rage, frustration, hate, bitterness, retaliation, revenge, resentment, jealousy. And then you've got hopeless, helpless, want to die, despair, disappointment. This is usually depression. And then another big category is sad, sorrow, grief, lonely, loss, isolation. So when you're asking the chief demon, let's say the demon of rage, okay, list out all the emotions that cause wounds with the spirits of rage sitting on top of them. And he knows that language. He knows exactly how many wounds there are. He was there, you know, throughout that person's life, starting at 10 years old, let's say. How old was he? Let's say it was 10 years old. Okay, and the person is still struggling with rage. Guess what? There's a lot of wounds. Okay, so he's going to start listing, and I just usually circle, oh, it's not working on here. Anyway, it has to be a Word document. But anyway, you get the picture. You're going to circle, and he's just going to start, okay, what else? What other emotion cause wounds? What other emotion? You just keep repeating, and you just let them fess up to all of them. So when you heal, let's say, let's see if I can get this open here. Okay. So let's say you have, oops, wrong one. Let's do demon of rage. He's the chief. We call him a chief. He's not head. He's just over one grouping of wounds. Okay, let's say he says it's many wounds. The next question, like I shared earlier, list out the emotions that cause wounds with spirits of rage on top of them. So basically it's many, can be many. Okay. And so you don't really care about the ages because there's just too many. So this one will be betrayal. You don't really want to, you don't want to say that one is betrayal, that one, but the point is you want all, because one of these wounds can have 3 or 4 emotions. Let's say this one can have abandonment, betrayal, and rejection. Okay. So you're not going to heal it one at a time at all. So this is where you go. Remember y'all had a Jesus room when you got a session? Mm-hmm. You just create a beautiful Jesus room where all the parts that have a spirit of rage sitting on top of them. See, here's rage. And Jesus brings them all in. You divide soul and spirit. Jesus speaks to all of them about the rage. Okay. Now, we know we're doing one issue at a time, right? One worst moment at a time. You pretty much can just let Jesus speak to all of them about the rage. And then, we go through, Jesus speaks, they together break the curse of rage and betrayal and abandonment. You just kind of break the curses of all of those all at one time. You have them go with Jesus. You don't really have to do a very long, because you have people with lots of groupings, but right now we're just going to do one grouping. So now what I do is I say, are there any of them in this room? Let's say Jesus speaks and he says, peace be still, or whatever he says. And then I said, are they all on board? Are they all hearing Jesus? Are they all, and all of you say, I break the curse. So they go through that. Okay. Can all of you forgive? Okay. Take a deep breath, let it go. Are there any of them kind of lagging behind, is quite not on board yet? And usually it's a person will go, yeah, there's a 5-year-old. Okay. And so I say, Jesus, can you speak to this 5-year-old? And that 5-year-old, can you hear me? What's the emotion? And they say anger or something like that. Jesus, speak to them about the anger and the hurt that's underneath it. So then it's time for all of them to go with Jesus. They go with Jesus. Okay. And then you would say, okay, Chief Demon, call rage. I know this is sloppy looking, but Chief Demon, call rage. Do you have any other legal right to this person? And if he says no, it's like, okay, go to the pit right now. And I usually say I break the generational curse of rage just in case, and then go with Jesus. And that's it. That's a one-issue deliverance. So you're going to learn how to heal in groups. Okay. And you're also going to learn how to do how to address a chief demon. We bring them before the courts of heaven. We don't have the full script as we would in addressing the head demon, but we can get him to talk. If he starts to be a little difficult, we give him all the rules, which is what we would do in a full session, as far as if you lie, you're going to have a judgment. And if you push up another wounded part, you're going to get a judgment. Like normally you don't need to do that with one issue. We want to be able to get a chief demon's name and get the wounds healed, and then let that person experience a breakthrough in that one issue. So I don't know if it's quite altar ministry unless you want to, that person comes up for prayer, let's say at the end of church, and then you might want to take them, to a side room or something. Because if there's more than one wound, then, anyway, it can get a little bit long. Just depends on how big the issue is. You just never know. So I just wanted to give you an overview. We're gonna go after. So this is what the goal of this school. You're gonna get a couple. You're gonna have practice with doing a couple of these. Do you have any questions with this?
So today, right now, we're just doing the worst moment.
Worst moment, but I'm kind of giving you a vision of what to expect.
And then after this, we will learn how to do a chief demon moment.
Correct.
Okay.
It's not just a moment. It's
a group.
Chief demon group, right?
A group, right. How many head demons are there?
Oh my gosh. It just depends on the person. You just never know until you get started. I remember with y'all's sessions, you remember there was I would say that each one of you probably had at least 3 groupings that we dealt with. Maybe more, I think 5 groupings. So sometimes people have every one of these categories. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 groupings. Takes a while. But again, there's another grouping called wanna die or suicide. Okay, that doesn't even fit into emotion. Just like heart attack, it's a spirit, it's not an emotion. Some of them are just spirits only, and they have they have these wounded parts with emotions. Some of them, the chief demon is the name of an emotion. Okay, so we just don't know. And then sometimes they're just layers. So whatever session someone had, they can at least get relief from that one issue. So we had a lady recently who had, she was afraid of birds, and when you live in Hawaii, you've got chickens everywhere. So she's just deathly afraid of chickens, and roosters and that sort of thing. She had only 3 wounds, and all 3, we just heal them one at a time. It was worth taking the time to do a worst moment healing on each one. And at the very end, I said, Chief Demon, fear birds, do you have any other legal right? The thing said no, we commanded it to go. She felt something leave. So I haven't talked to her yet and see if the chickens bother her anymore. But I would like to, I'm going to follow up with her and see. Okay. Any comments or questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question. So you have many head demons. So when you ask somebody
head demon, there's only one.
Only one. And then all the other chief demons are sitting underneath the head demon.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
And he's sort of managing all these. Now, when we do a full deliverance, head demon does leave for sure, because we always find out, are you sure there's not any other? Yeah, okay, you're sure there's no generational? No, okay. He leaves, he definitely leaves. But what sometimes they have is they reorganize. So now it's a different head demon. And you know what I'm saying? I don't want to. Yeah. So now,
if the head demon leaves, then you have a chief that steps up in that place.
Probably. That's what I envision happening.